Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. The beginning of November, which means these are the October sales data of Flesh and Blood off of TCG Player. And I really have two stories I want to tell with these data this month. So the first will come to us as we go through just the normal data we look at every month. It's real interesting, a big spike here of about 50, 60 boxes of Welcome to Wraith Unlimited. And of course, for Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War, I only look at the unlimited boxes. I don't look at the first edition boxes because they're too expensive and they don't sell often enough. And I suspect a lot of them that do sell do not sell on TCG Player. So it's not as representative as the rest of it is. But if we come over to the month-over-month table, this is really interesting. Welcome to Wraith Unlimited, sales up 98%. This is not that October sales were 98% of September sales. It's that they were up 98%. So 124 in the previous month and 245 in October. So up 98%. And Crucible of War up 145%. You know, something I always talk about is there's less Crucible of War in existence than we appreciate. It's going to dry up harder than we imagine. So one day when it starts to, when the supply starts to get tight, it's going to happen quicker, and I think it's going to spike it higher because of that. It only had one print run. It didn't go back to the printers like some of these other ones did. Kind of interesting, Arcane Rising showed a decline in sales, but if you remember this video from last month, the September sales were a big spike over the August sales. And what's interesting too is the prices did not move much. Up 4% on Welcome to Wraith, up 7% on Arcane Rising, and down 5% on Crucible of War. So then if we come into the Monarch First Edition and Monarch Unlimited, same thing, big spikes here. This was probably a bonus buck sale in the middle of the month. And if we take this table, Monarch First Edition up 217%. So it over tripled its sales in October compared to September. And even Monarch Unlimited was up 77%, and this on still declining prices. So, you know, this makes you wonder, to what extent are these players buying this? To what extent are they investors? And, you know, if you're going to pay basically double the price, just about, for the first edition version, you are probably an investor. Probably. Now, I'm sure there are some players who would just really love to get a cold foil, but are you going to pay essentially 40, 45 extra dollars per box for the one cold foil that's in it? For the rare box that has two cold foils in it? I don't know. I would think that most of these people buying here are players, and most of the people buying here are investors. But amazing numbers, up 217%. And this goes to something that I always try to explain when I'm talking with someone who is very long-term bearish on Monarch First Edition. You know, people will say there's just way too many boxes of it out there, and it's just going to last forever. The supply will never dry up. And the thing I point out is when the boxes are $89, and you can get them on bonus buck sales, sometimes with good deals on top of that, you know, vendors just trying to move them. Sometimes you can get them for $70. I bought two in October for about $70 each. And when the prices are that low for Monarch First Edition, people are going to be consuming these boxes. They're going to be putting them back in the closet. They're going to be opening them for fun. They're going to be opening them for their collections or to play with or whatever. And it will accelerate the disappearance of this product. Its population decline will accelerate because it's having this prolonged period of low prices. And ultimately, that means that in the future, it will see better returns. And so I think that eventually, in the past, it was okay to be bearish on Monarch First Edition. There were times during its life when it was okay, but as time goes on and it stays at these lower prices and more of these boxes get eaten up and you see accelerations in the sales like this, then eventually you have to change your attitude. Tales of Aria First Edition versus its unlimited version, and you saw you see this gap here in the plot continue to widen month after month. More people are willing to pay the small premium to get the first edition boxes over the unlimited boxes. And I definitely think for Tales of Aria, that really makes a lot of sense. And so you're really only talking about, about a $15 difference in price, and you'll get cold foils instead of rainbow foils, or you will get a cold foil instead of just rainbow foils. But unlimited version sales increased 33%, and the first edition version of Tales of Aria sales were flat for the month. So let's come in here and we're going to talk about, let's just take a quick look at these second generation first editions together. And of course, this Everfest line looks crazy because we have the release day during this year back in February, and we missed the release days of the other previous products. But we can go ahead and compare the first edition boxes of the second generation products, and Everfest sales up 100% in the month. And so then we'll take a quick look at Everfest, Uprising, and Dynasty. Let's take Dynasty off here for just a second, because we're always interested in how Uprising is doing. Here we go. Uprising flat for the month. 3% fewer boxes, so it sold 6 fewer boxes than the month before. I guess that's pretty good, actually, that the rate of sales basically remained constant through the month, and the price was stable too. So I like that, and we can take a quick look at just the chart of History Pack. Pretty crazy. Even History Pack, a pretty undesirable product for existing players and especially investors and collectors, but its sales were up 67% during the month. So I suspect this is indicative of new players, because that's really what History Pack is targeted for. To the extent that it's targeted towards anything in the English market, it's targeted towards new players. So I see this as a good sign for the future of the product. Now, let's take Everfest First Edition, Uprising, and Dynasty. So it's going to be our first look at Dynasty, and we're going to put this on days since release, and we'll plot that. And what we're going to see is this disappointing yellow line down here for Dynasty. And of course, we have the giant spikes for the previous two sets, Uprising and Everfest First Edition. And the reason for those being where they are is TCG Player does these pre-release events where they sell a package of boxes, and the way they account for them in their system, where I get these data from, is that they put them all several days before the release. They just add them to their database on those points in time, and that's why those are not on release day that you have those huge spikes. They're a couple days before. But just seeing where it is now down here, and essentially 136 boxes, I mean, that's kind of a sad number. So it's not a good sign. And I know every time I talk about bad numbers for Flesh and Blood, I get Flesh and Blood fans in the comments getting angry at me, but the data are the data. This is exactly the number of boxes that have sold on TCG Player. I mean, we can discuss things like, a bunch more boxes are sold in stores, they're sold in different regions, they're sold on different marketplaces. Yes, all of that is true, but when we compare TCG Player in one time period, one expansion, to TCG Player in another time period, another expansion, we can get useful comparisons out of that. It's the relative comparison that's useful. And so what we're seeing is that Dynasty is really lagging behind right now. Hopefully it picks up. I mean, I'm not a bear on Flesh and Blood by any means. Anyone who watches this channel for any period of time will know that I'm very bullish on Flesh and Blood for the long term. So let's come back to this. I am going to take, essentially, let me take all of these products, and then I will take Uprising also, and we'll just show the table of all of them, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was this. Just the month-over-month box increases for all of these products together. 98% Welcome to Wraith, 145% Crucible of War month-over-month box growth, 200% for Monarch. Just the number of boxes was amazing. And look at how relatively stable the prices were in October compared to September. So You had small price decreases. Comically, you had Monarch First Edition drop 14%, and that really brought the people out to buy it. So its sales numbers were up 200%. And I think this goes to show something. There are people quietly buying these boxes. They are taking advantage of these low prices, and they are putting them back in the closet. Maybe some of these people are enjoying them, playing the game, all that stuff, etc. But as you look back at these older and older boxes, the first and second generation boxes especially, these are going to tend to skew towards people who are investors, people who are saying, hey, the prices are low, the news is quiet, the action is small, and so you can step in here and you can buy a bunch of boxes right now at cheap prices. And you see these results from October. There are people definitely doing it, and especially where these prices are consolidating right now. So it's interesting to me because it shows that the market is maybe finding its bottom. It can dither around for months. It may dither around for another 6 months. It may drop another 5, another 10%. But from these month-over-month price changes right here, it looks like the market is trying to consolidate, trying to find its bottom. And at some point in the future here, in the next couple of months, it'll probably start turning upwards with some actual strength, some consistent strength month after month after month. So don't miss this opportunity. If you're someone who already invests in Flesh and Blood, someone who just likes the game, someone who doesn't have a significant position but you've been waiting to build one, this should be your sign that now is the time where the price changes have become small and people quietly gobbling up these boxes have gone crazy. Just the number of boxes this month compared to last month. So, I totaled up these numbers for all the Flesh and Blood products, including the history pack and everything else. I did not include Dynasty in these numbers, but for September, the total box sales on TCG Player was 773, and for October it was 1181. So the total boxes sold increased by 53% month over month. And then on the revenue basis, if you just take this average price per box over the course of the month and you multiply it by the number of boxes to get these revenue numbers, and you had taken these for everything except Dynasty, for September, it was about $57,000, and for October, it was about $85,000. So the total revenue number for Flesh and Blood sales on TCG Player for the month increased 48%. So, if you're looking for a sign that it's time to stop waiting and take a position, if you're interested in ever having a position, this is the sign when the sales are spiking and the prices are staying the same, because part of the market is starting to move while the rest of the market is still asleep. So, that was one of the stories for this month. The other story was these absolutely sad Dynasty numbers so far. I hope this turns around. I hope by the time I come back next month with the November sales number, Dynasty will have been in full release for nearly 3 weeks. And, hopefully it looks a lot better and it spikes up higher and we get something that performs better than Everfest. But Everfest was kind of in the tail end of that time where there was a lot of investor frenzy in Flesh and Blood. It was before the Monarch First Edition release numbers came out, and it was before the Fab 2.0 launch. So a lot has changed since then, and we really hope to see the numbers recover on TCG Player sales, because that's a really good sign if they would. But, until then, we'll just keep monitoring it month to month, and I remain ultimately long-term very bullish on Flesh and Blood, on the way that Legend Story Studios is managing the product, the way they're willing to learn from mistakes, to accept new information and change the way they're doing things. So I think all of it's very bullish long-term. Let me know what you think, guys. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.